Simps depend on others more than themselves. And this video will be talking about the first really important skill, self-skill you have to be aware of and master to truly leave that matrix, that plantation, that mind plantation where you're looking to others for approval and validation. So the first really important part is to understand that yes, as humans, naturally we have to learn to depend on others when we're born into this world. However, there becomes a time and a place in every man's life where he needs to be aware of his dependency and decide, you know what? Hey, I needed that dependency at some point. I no longer need it, and now I trust myself. I take ownership for myself and my life rather than looking and depending on others for their approval. Let's get started. Okay, why can't simps escape the plantation? There's a lot to this, guys. There's a lot of reasons why. It can be hard. So if you have escaped the plantation, give yourself a pat on the back. It's not easy to do. Some guys are, it's a lifelong fight, and it makes sense why. It really makes sense why. And actually, I will say that I got inspiration about this topic from reading The Manipulated Man. I got inspiration on this topic from this book, so I want to shout this book out again. Again, I'll be doing more presentations on stuff from this book in the future. Really eye-opening. So here's the goal, guys. Here's the goal of this, is to break down why escaping can be so hard. When men understand why they are falling for this false dream, they will have an easier chance of escaping. When it's laid out for you, it's easier for you to avoid the trap, avoid to fall into certain things. Because, I don't know, I guess think about how any of you guys started to become red-pilled. Either something happened where it was too late and something hit you and it was like crap and you just had a rude awakening that way, or you were able to learn from other people sharing the message, giving you awareness so you didn't fall into some of the other traps. That's kind of the same way with this whole thing. Like leaving the plantation, it's hard for a reason. So hopefully this helps some of you guys if you're stuck in any of these stages here. We are hardwired for the P. It is hard. Yes, we are. The magical P. All right, the plantation. What is it? I have maybe a different take than some of you guys have heard. A lot of guys, will say the plantation as far as like the actual physical plantation of you being married. You're on the plantation, the ball and chain. I think about the plantation is a state of mind, is a mindset. And that's where a man uses the gauge of women or a woman to determine his own worth, to determine his own value. That is, to me, the mind plantation, the mind matrix that we're fighting against, that you get stuck in. In other words, being trapped in the rat race of living for a woman rather than yourself. And it's really, I know it kind of seems simple to say it that way, but just think how many times in your life where you thought you were kind of doing something for yourself, but when you really think back to it, it's like, wait, I probably wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for this girl. Wow, I definitely wouldn't have done that. Oh man, I wouldn't have gone pumpkin patch hunting every year in the fall if it wasn't for... So you start to think about it. There's a lot of things that you didn't actually do for yourself. You did it because of wanting attention from women, validation from women, something because of them rather than just checking with yourself. Do I feel like doing that? Nah, I'm good. Nah, I'm good. So the plantation's kind of a mind game is how I look at it. It's you got to defeat your own mind to escape the plantation. I only saw my parents argue, then I know I don't want to get married. Yeah, interesting. There's lots of... Okay, so here's the first thing I'm going to talk about here. I think I have eight little kind of mind games you kind of have to maneuver if you want to escape the plantation. I'm sure there's more, but this is just what I came up with when I was putting the slides together. So the first one is dependency. And our young years shape us. Now, think about this with human beings, right? This is just totally natural, totally normal. Human beings, not all animals are so helpless when you're born. Human beings are dependent upon others, period, for survival when you're born. Some animals, you're born and it's like you fend for yourself. Human beings have to rely on other people to survive the young years. You just have to. There's just... I feel like we would see stories about that, but yeah, no, there's no way. You could just be born, plopped out, and then you'd just be fine. No, you have to depend on others. So that first thing that is going to be rooted in our minds is dependency on others. When we're born, we immediately have to look up to others to protect us and to create rules for us to survive. Even as simple as you touch your hand on the stove, you learn, ow, that's hot. Someone tells you don't put your hand on the stove, that will hurt your hand, you burn your hand. You learn all these rules. So from the youngest age, right, you're born into this world and you are dependent on others. That is natural. So this is why this is one of the hardest, it's a hurdle you have to get over before you can think about escaping the plantation, is just understanding that this is rooted in us for a reason. But when you're older and you can take care of yourself, you don't need dependency anymore. But this stays with a lot of us because it's just how we grew up. It's just programmed into us. So we learn to look to others for advice instead of relying on ourselves. It's just how we are nurtured into this world, and with great reason that happens. But, at a certain point, you got to understand where you no longer need to look to others. You have control over your own life. But it's hard to get out of that, to step out of that if you haven't yet. Coming back to this idea that simps depend on others more than themselves, what are some things that you have noticed, either in yourself or in others, where you could see this dependency that either you had or someone else had on other people more than themselves? Like, what does that look like? Do you have any advice for, men that are trying to detach from dependency of others? Of course, leave it in the comments below, helping our fellow men out. See you later. Don't forget, subscribe, like, comment, share the video, but definitely subscribe.